So that's it? What, we some kind of suicide squad?
Ratatouille, what do you got?
Bird.
So that's it? What are we, some kind of the Suicide Squad? So that's it? What are we, some kind of Avengers Endgame?
How long have we been on this rock? 5 weeks?
So that's it? What are we, some kind of the Lighthouse?
What is up, flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. Oh my goodness, we have a brand new DC movie to talk about. It is The Suicide Squad. James Gunn, going from Marvel to DC. How is this going to turn out? We're going to talk about it spoiler-free in this video. If you guys would like to see a spoiler video, be sure to drop your thumbs up. Let's get into it. So Supervillains Harley Quinn, Bloodsport, Peacemaker, and more at Belle Reve Prison join the super-secret, super-shady Task Force X as they are dropped off at the remote enemy-infused island of Corto Maltese. So no Deadshot this time. We have Bloodsport, a new character, but a character that kind of carries over the role of Deadshot in the last film. But we do have Harley Quinn and Amanda Waller and Captain Boomerang and Rick Flag and some of the characters that carry over into this movie effortlessly. And it's really cool when you look at what this film is doing. It is technically a sequel because they used the first film to provide us with basically knowledge of how the Suicide Squad works. You go into this movie, they are thrown into their mission. They're like, no, we don't have to explain it because they get it. You guys are smart. You understand. And we do understand if we're not big comic book fans because of that first movie. But really, you can separate this film because there isn't much that carries over in terms of plot other than the characters themselves. Okay, we're going into this movie, but we're introducing all of these characters and these comic book villains. I wanted to say heroes, but they're not heroes. They're villains that a lot of people may not be aware of. We have Polka Dot Man, okay? And David Dastmalchian is so good. Javelin, Savant. I mean, all these characters is like, who is this guy? And some of the characters, it's not going to matter because James Gunn is not afraid to pull the trigger. And that is not a metaphor. Or is it? It could be. And I read all the promos going in. It said, don't get too attached. And I said, okay, well, they're not going to surprise me to a level that, oh my God. Oh my God. I mean, right off the bat, James Gunn is throwing all of these surprises our way. Now, again, this is a spoiler-free review, so I'm not going to talk about who makes it and who doesn't in this video. But I will say, the shock factor for every kill in this movie was ridiculously high. Maybe not all of them. Maybe one or two I could predict. But it was ridiculously high and so thoroughly entertaining, as well as the cast. Everyone is really good. We know how good Margot Robbie is as Harley Quinn, just as good as ever in this film. But really, the newcomers for me, I mean, obviously Viola Davis is going to crush, but Idris Elba, and we know how good of an actor he is, he played Bloodsport in a way that allowed us to resonate with his character on a degree, on a level that I just didn't expect. I'd say the most unexpected character for me, and maybe even my favorite. I don't know yet. I may have a ranking video coming out. But Daniela Melchior, who plays Ratcatcher 2, is absolutely the heart and soul of the movie. I mean, there are a couple of subplots that could serve as the heart and soul and kind of the emotional background of the film, but she was so good and such an unexpected character. Now, a character that I expected to be great was Sly, Sylvester Stallone's King Shark. I knew that would be an entertaining character, but I didn't know to what level of entertainment I would get. And I'm talking as violent and bloody as a lot of people hope for going in. But beyond that, there's so much comedy and humor that comes from this character and from the movie as a whole. I'd say it's a lot funnier than the first movie. It's a lot more action-packed. The plot in itself is so simple. But I look at a movie like Mad Max, and I'm not comparing this to Mad Max, it's very different, but the simplicity of that plot, taking a road trip to somewhere and taking a road trip back. If you really wanted to strip it down that way, you could. And the same thing goes with Suicide Squad. There's a lot happening in terms of action, but the mission is simple, and you kind of know what the end goal is going to be. But the fact that they can separate it from the universe, yet keep it in the universe, and the fact that they can make it so entertaining and feel so complex, even though the simplicity is there, they're doing all of these things. Well, James Gunn is doing all of these things, you know, and a lot of people want to say, myself included, going into this, well, it's going to be DC's version of Guardians of the Galaxy. But it's not really that. I mean, it does feel like it in a way when it comes from, you know, being able to gravitate and latch on to a lot of these characters. Yeah, he does the same thing with Guardians, but it's an entirely different film because it feels like what everybody's been saying. It feels like James Gunn has been unleashed onto the world of DC and it's all the better for it. Not only James Gunn, but John Murphy's score, Henry Brahms' cinematography. The movie is so beautiful to look at. It's so entertaining when the music kicks in. And I don't want to start making these comparisons to the other Suicide Squad, but it's edited together. And that was one of my big problems with the original. I just reviewed it on Letterboxd. You can check that out. But it comes together in a way that just feels jumbled. This film flows so well. Now, a criticism that I do have with the story is maybe it does start to fall a little bit more flat when you're comparing in the second act, or even the end of the first act. There were a couple of moments I said, okay, we got to pick up the pace. We got to keep that energy, that infectious energy going. Didn't bother me too much because we get right back into the swing of things. The action picks up, and it continues to become more and more entertaining until the end, when you're sit back saying, I just had one of the best times I've had in the theater all year. At least I did. And what could come from this movie? Not only DC saying, oh, well, we can do something that's in this world but does feel separated. Oh, we can take a character like Peacemaker and build an entire series around him. John Cena was so entertaining. I mean, he is as unleashed as James Gunn was in this movie. And I would love if they did the same with Idris Elba's Bloodsport. Heck, give me a Ratcatcher 2 TV show. There's just so much that could come from this film. But that's because the movie is so simple yet complex, so entertaining, never a dull moment. The action, if you don't like the over-aggressiveness, because this is a hard R, folks, let me tell you, there's a lot of violence. If you're not into that kind of thing, people getting eaten alive, you're probably not going to like this movie, but that's okay. Taste is taste. They don't do a lot of obvious lack of buildup like in the first film. Everyone gets an introduction except for Slipknot, and he's like, it's a Slipknot. He ties ropes, and he does rope things. He's not going to die. And then sure enough, he dies. His head gets blown up. None of that in this film. You don't really... Hey, can you tell I love this film? I hoped I would enjoy it. I had no clue I would love it on this level. That's the best feeling when you're walking out of a movie just shocked that you had as much fun as you did and you don't have as many criticisms as you hoped you wouldn't have. And I thought The Suicide Squad was a freaking blast. One of the best comic book movies, not only of this year, but of the last few years. Before I give you guys my score, I want to say thank you so much for joining. If we can get 1,000 likes on this video, I will do the biggest tier list I've ever done, and that is a DCEU villains tier list. So if you guys want to see that, let me know. But this film not only surpasses expectations, but it manages to stand up to some of the greatest comic book movies of our time. It's a fast-paced thrill ride from start to finish, and Gunn's style is a perfect fit. All of this makes it one of the best movies of the year. My score is a 96% for The Suicide Squad. I don't have a lot of criticisms. I thought this was a great time. And James Gunn, congratulations. Can't wait to see what you're going to do with Guardians 3. I don't even know what to do with myself right now. I'm so happy. I can't wait to see this movie again when it drops this weekend. Going to go out to a theater one more time. We're going to talk about it more, a spoiler review. May have a special guest for that, so stay tuned to this channel. If you are not subscribed, you don't have that notification bell turned on, that would be fantastic, as well as any support on this video. But leave your comment down below. What is your favorite DCEU movie so far? And you can see on the screen right now, I asked you guys to predict my score, and a lot of you guys absolutely nailed that. So thank you so much for your partaking in that community discussion. You guys the best. Thanks for watching. Later today, a review for 9 Days, one of my favorite movies of the year. Let's do it.